So you can, during this time, you can share your screen. So Borami Kang is an MFA candidate in the Design Research and Development track at the Ohio State University in the Department of Design. She also serves as a graduate teaching associate with over a decade of professional experience in graphic design, brand identity, and design project management across Korea and the United States. Her work bridges industry practice and critical design research. Her research sits at the intersection of design education and AI with a focus on how emerging AI tools reshape creativity, creative agency, authorship, and decision making in design processes. Um, Welcome again, Borami. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Do you see my presentation? No.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
It's not in full screen yet.
Mm.
That's what I can tell.
Do you see it?
Yes. Thank you.
Sorry, this is different than what I tested, so I'm trying to. Okay.
So while Borami prepares, I would like just to remind to attendees, but also panelists, more so for attendees, that questions are to be addressed in the chat, rather in the chat, and not in the Q&A section. There's a Q&A section in the webinar, but we would like to use the chat for the ease of the flow. Thank you.
Right. Is this full screen, or is it okay if I?
We don't have the full screen. We have your web browser window, and there's just a message on top of the presentation. If the full screen doesn't work, you can still use
Browser?
the
Is this
browser.
okay? Is
Yes,
that okay
that's
now?
easy.
Okay.
Sure.
Hi, uh, I'm Borami Kang. I'm a second year Master of Fine Arts candidate in Design Research and Development at the Department of Design. And I'm here to present my pilot study, the ongoing study for my thesis. And it is scaffolding different AI roles in the classroom. And it is to develop a education framework for reflective practice and gain students' creative agency. So just a little bit of my background. I have a professional work experience in visual communication design before coming to school, and I did teaching assistant here in visual communication design class and design research class for 2 years now. And I'm interested in pursuing the career in design education in the future. So my study evolves around how AI is reshaping the roles of designers and how AI is reshaping work of designers and the process of how designers work and how designers think is becoming different because of AI and how AI is reshaping agency and authorship of designers. So in this symposium, I'll talk about two studies that I've done so far. And I would like to introduce my previous study before talking about my current study because that's the previous study, I gained a lot of insights so that I can continue using that insight to my current study. So it's relatable. And the first study I did before was with research with Gaetan and my advisor Yvette Shen and Fabian at the Ohio State University. And the objective of this study was to see how different AI features in the research platforms influence my experience as a design researcher and how they influence my emotions too, as well, and how it changed my actual agency of knowing in the design research topics that I was researching in the everyday research platform. So we all know that this tools automate a lot of tasks already in the research in many different ways, but there's not much study on how these research tools are really affecting the way of knowing design. So Gaetan actually did the first part of the method here. We looked at all the research platform AI policy statements, and then he did the context analysis. And also, we looked at AI principle by the declarement of in the declare responsible AI provided by the European Act, and then we used that to compare my experience in using the research platforms. So I screen recorded myself using MacBook Pro. I screenshotted my experiences every time I did design research. And I also try to do think aloud protocols to capture emotions. And I use the transcripts to code the behaviors and emotions. So the result was from curiosity of using all the design features, AI features in the platforms. And you can see how the feelings and emotions and experience started to go down negatively because of the interruptions of AI features and disorientations and task loss of what I intended to do. So the positive side was that it mostly did align with my goals, the research goals, and it gave me a lot of curiosity and it had low learning threshold. But negative side, there was a lot of disorientation of what I was doing and what I was questioning originally. And it even deleted my prompts sometimes, and I was looking myself trying to go back to what I was doing a lot. And based on these results, I found that these research platforms with AI features consistently eroded my agency of knowing and controlling knowing in the research. So right now, as AI features evolve rapidly, researchers now have to do different kind of cognitive tests, which is actively trying to balance these tools, but with also controlling my over reliance on the tools. So from these studies, we could tell that transparency of how AI features are telling the user is very important, and how allowing these tools should allow more agency for the user to control and the fine gain control of users' action. And studying these situated scenarios and experiences very becoming difficult because AI system is a complex system. So why do we want to know about autonomy of AI and what does it mean by agency? What was the question that I had? And if you look at some definitions of autonomy and agency, autonomy is driven by the system who operates without human intervention. So AI has autonomy too, and autonomy levels. And agency also we look at this human agency that I'm looking at is being capable of doing something. And the agent is one who acts, and agency is the one has the capacity to act. So difference between perceived agency and actual agency here is that I might have a feeling of control or I might have this subjective feelings that I'm controlling and that I'm acting, but maybe the actual agency is not there, and agency is true control that is hidden behind. So there's two different kind of agency that I'm looking at, and I became interested in studying these perceived agency and creative agency in the second study that I'm doing. So right now, the current study I'm doing is developing an education framework for future designers and design researchers in the field. And how can this design education help emerging design students to learn how to design better with AI tools and still maintain the creative agency? So, more questions that I got through this study was looking at different behaviors and looking at different experience that new designers are now facing when they're working with AI system. And I started to become curious what they want to do with AI and what do they think of AI as a role. And my research question comes to how might using different roles of AI help regain students' creative agency, and how might slowing down the process of designing with AI tools help regain the creative agency? And how do these different levels of different students actually behave and think of AI? And to study this, I wanted to gain more insights from the students so that I can build a better framework for education. And previously, when I was doing teaching assistants, we do a lot of survey before the class and midway the class and after the class to see their perceptions of AI and how they want to work with AI. And this was done last year with sophomore year students. And you can see that mostly they are still afraid of using AI and they're not sure if they really want to learn AI yet, which is interesting. And also, the question was, what kind of concerns do you have with working with AI was becoming too reliant, or they don't know yet how to use it. And they're just afraid that they don't know how AI is working with creativity and learning how effectively and responsibly, how do it's, they just wanted to know how they could do it better, but there's not really a practical way that we can still approach here. So right now, I'm also studying cognitive systems engineering and cognitive science together because I got interested into how AI is working and how human is working with it. So I use a systems design approach from the cognitive system engineering standpoint. And this is a cognitive system triad that they use when they study critical systems when tool is involved in the work. So there's world, the work domain that human is working in, and there's a human who has different competency and skills, and there's a tool. So in my study, I am looking at the time constraints and dynamics and peer pressure in the work domain that design students are going through. And the human side is the design students. So they have different experience in AI, they have different agency, different skills, and different perceptions. And the tools have, the generative AI tools have different levels also and different tools. And when they, the cognitive systems engineering, look at the work and how human and tool work together, they use this level of automation, 10 different levels, to see how people work good at or bad at. So I also looked at our design work and how designers and design students ideate in the work, and I wanted to focus on the ideation part in the design process because AI is accelerating our design ideation process here. So instead of looking at different automation level, I'm looking at different roles of task in the design process. So I looked at it as a AI as a designer, and AI as a collaborator, and AI as a recommender. So what if we look at these different roles of AI and see how students work in different roles? So I came in with the workshop idea of having the students choose different roles of AI and how they prompt differently and how they behave differently and how do they evaluate different outputs differently. So this is a process of my workshop that I'm doing with the participant. So first, I introduce myself in the workshop, and I have some kind of open-end discussion with the students, how they think of what do they think of their role is in the design process and what is the AI role. And I asked to measure the creative agency. These are all perceived agency of students that I wanted to compare. And then later with the behavior patterns, they later have what the actual agency was. So I have these three different surveys in between the work they're doing, and they are assigned with the simple design task using different roles. So I set up their three different role with the Microsoft Copilot agents, which is certified by our school, and it's easy to set up roles here and make an agent. So I instructed three different roles, and the recommender and collaborator designer, but collaborator has to always have first students input first. So it restricts if you ask any idea. And designer, as you know, you can just ask anything and provide an output right away. So first time pilot test I did was two design graduate students, and it was 90 minutes. And I asked them to use different role cards of three different AI roles. And then they had to put down on the board next to the laptop while using three different role with a AI model to text generate. It can generate images or text for them. And they had to write down why they chose that role. And the final design brief was they were tasked with to design a poster for AI literacy workshop for high school students. And they explained what AI helped and why AI couldn't help in some part. And the interesting fact is that both of them are very experienced in AI tools. So they really wanted to use AI as a collaborator right away. And they mostly used AI as a collaborator. And but difference is that second participant used it designer as to compare her input, but the other design student used designer to critique what AI did. So, which was very interesting insight that I got. And both think that recommender role is same as collaborator, and they were confused about the roles between two. So I had to define it better and make sure three different roles are not overrating together. So I did the second pilot test, and I switched from card to the workbook so that all of the materials are all in the one sheet for the participants' conveniency. And added, I also allowed them to have more creativity, and I kind of pushed them to become more creativity with also providing color pencils and different tools to talk about their ideas. So I set it up different roles again, this version, as evaluator and designer and co-creator. And evaluator and co-creator is where they have to put their input first, and AI is only evaluating or co-creating with them by suggesting ideas. And in this workshop, this is the workbook that I provided. So there's an introduction, same three different survey to measure the creative agency. and how that changes throughout. And the part one workshop is to design this simple design task, but they have to pitch their idea at the end and they have to critique their idea together, each other. And I explained the AI roles very clearly, what they're going to do and what they have to do. And I ask what your role will be and what AI's role will be. So there is a pre-survey that I did to measure their perceived agency before choosing AI roles. And the part one workshop was AI as a designer. So I constricted them to use this role because I wanted to see how they gain their agency from being restricted of using AI as a designer to not the other roles in the later part. So I asked them to just copy and paste this design brief in their three different agents. And then I asked them to write down the prompt they used and the output, if they liked it or not, and why did they like the output and why did they not like the output. And also, there's a mid-check-in survey to check the creative agency of students before going to the next step. And the second part is they have a freedom to choose any of the roles here in the AI, and they have to log their process of which roles they're using and if they like the output or not, and how their experience was for each. And then there's a last part of survey using same creative agency measure questions to see and compare how this agency changed throughout the workshop. And at the end, they share their ideas and critique their ideas. So the interesting insights that I got was that these participants did not know each other, and I kind of pushed them to be more creative and they're gonna critique each other. And I think that really helped in becoming more focused in their work and using AI differently compared to the first pilot test. And you can see that first student is a design student, but the second student never used AI to create design. And the first design students, you can see that prompt what she made, and then the non-design students did not write any prompts in the process logs, but was more interested in the sentences and trying to figure out to work with AI was different than design students. And then you can see here too how they use different roles is different. Design students first works with collaborator, co-creator, just like the first pilot test. But for non-design students, used more of designer and evaluator at the end compared to the design students.
Borami, may I
Yeah.
just remind, we just have 1 minute left, so
Yes,
could you
yes,
go to
yes.
the conclusion? Thank you.
So this is a final design output they did, and some insights was that differences between these prompts and how they behave could feed me to what kind of behavior I can code later to develop a better design education framework. So it could be implied to design educators and design students and AI tool for designers. Yeah, so I'm working on the online version too. So yes, thank you.